Hello and welcome to another episode here with Rosie, your realtor. And today we have Terry Gilliam all the way from Florida. Hi, Terry.
Hi, Rosie. It's great to see you today.
Likewise. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and nice sign you got there in the back.
Thanks. I got it in my office here. I keep it behind me. Not really.
Wow, you must have a big office. So, Terry, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I was born and raised in Florida. Worked at Disney World in the 70s and early 80s and decided to spread my wings and eventually made my way to California in 1986. I lived in California in 86 in the restaurant business and then kind of became an entrepreneur, self-employed for many, many years. And then in the early 2000s, I started doing mortgages and worked that trend through from 2002 until the absolute crash and disaster in 2010. And then went into technology from there, mostly real estate technology. And for many of those years, I was in the 35 years I was in California, I was not happy with the direction the state was going. And that's why we're meeting today.
Yes. It's sad because I love the weather. I have all my friends and family here, but along with a lot of my friends leaving, I don't see us staying here. And we definitely decided we're not retiring here. And that's actually why we have you here. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing now.
Sure. So 3 years ago, in September of 2018, I pretty much had enough. I saw for years that California was eliminating the middle class. I don't know if this is my numbers, not anyone else's, but I think the cost of living in California goes up about 10% a year. You look at all the increase in gas tax and gas prices. You look at property taxes, sales taxes, income taxes. They all just go up. The cost of food goes up every year. And I think it's around 10%. Well, if you're working a job, who gets a 10% raise just to stay even?
Yeah.
So I saw years ago that California was eliminating the middle class. And I think that's really coming true. And so if you're a family person who every year you've got less money than the year before, and not to mention the burdensome regulations, we can talk about that for the next 3 hours about all the regulations that have come down from Sacramento.
Series.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So I really figured that I would start a Facebook group called Leaving California. And I have lived and traveled the country extensively. In my technology work, I traveled all over the country. I saw a lot of great places. And sure, you're exactly right. You can't beat the weather anywhere in the world almost, probably. Certainly in the country, but weather only goes so far. If you're broke and it doesn't help that it's maybe 80 degrees and no humidity, that doesn't help you live a prosperous life. I started that Facebook group, Leaving California, because I knew I wasn't the only person who was experiencing the anger, really, of what was happening to California. And I saw this coming years ago. So I started the group, and my goal was to get maybe to 1,000 people. There was another Facebook group helping people move to Texas. They had like 20,000, and they said they were the largest in the country helping people move. And I said, well, not everybody wants to move to Texas. Let's focus on the rest of the country. Let's focus on everywhere.
Yeah.
And today, between the two Facebook groups I have about 112,000 people in these groups. So I was right. There are a lot of people who, whether they want to or not, need to leave California. And so I set up a network of realtors all across the country, movers, mortgage people, so that not only can we help people figure out where they want to go, we can also help them get there by selling their house and also helping them find a great home and realtor in other parts of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I've helped countless people leave. I think this year alone, I've helped people go to Texas, Washington, Nevada, a couple countries. I literally have two different families leave to two different countries. And people are just fed up. Young families, they feel like most people, they feel like they're working paycheck to paycheck, but these young families, they just, they're not raising their kids. They're having to work the double shifts and it's hard. And so then trying to move out, it's like, where do you start, right? So I know I've been, semi-active on those websites, and I love that someone will say, I'm thinking of this city or I'm thinking of this state. What are the better areas? Because here we have earthquakes, so but other states have tornadoes or hurricanes, and that's scary. So what are the, the better areas? How do you handle those scenarios? And so I've seen the interaction in the Facebook group. I think it's been great. I know one of my clients that I just sold her house. She moved to Tennessee. She found her lender there, which has been great, because also you don't want to just partner up with anybody, right? I mean, you want people that are active in the industry, whether it's lending or real estate, and know the areas and can help guide you on what best works for you, right? Because we're not cookie cutters, and that's what the state's trying to do, right? Make everybody the same.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm trying to help people connect with professionals, because let's face it, if you don't want to leave California, and most of us, moved back to Florida 4 months ago, most of us don't want to leave California, and there's a great unknown out there. Where should I end up? And of course, people want the same weather, but they're not going to get the same weather. So that's one strike. Then they want to make sure if their kids are in schools, they get great schools. If they're retiring, they want to have lots of things to do so they can stay active. And it's a big country. So you're right. You don't want to get blown away by a tornado or a hurricane. But, Rosie, The Wizard of Oz was a movie. It's not the reality. My parents are in their 80s and 90s. They've never seen a tornado, and they've lived in the South their whole life. So it's not like you're constantly looking out the window, watching the tornado come down the street to blow away your house. Does it happen? It happens. But anytime at any place, half of California could fall into the ocean.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to bother people until it happens.
Right.
So,
it's what
I'm
we
with
have.
you. Yeah,
Well,
there's no guarantees.
Sorry. The sad part is, you find, fear of the unknown, right? We're scared of what we don't know, whether it's the climate or whatnot. But I mean, I've had clients here, they have their kids in private school and moved. One family in particular, I'm thinking they moved to Tennessee. And she is just just so excited with the school there. And now they're in public school. There's a lot of areas in California, they're just, yes, we have great weather. And for me, it's probably more the family, right? We've been here all our lives. We have the connections. But beyond that, beyond our relationships, it's like, do I need the weather? I don't know that I do. Half the time when people visit from out of state, they always want to go to the beach because I live on the beach. And it's like, oh, I got to go to the beach because I don't even like the ocean here. So for me, it's more the connections. But definitely there is a lot of amazing things and to serve anybody's needs in other states. My best friend just went to, I think, Georgia. People are leaving everywhere. So, but anyhow, I love what you've been doing. I know we could talk about this forever, all the pros and cons. And I just think that especially for young families, and not just young families, because I've helped countless clients this year, whether, it was a salon owner and, well, we know what happened in California with businesses, or whether it's someone that's just, like you're saying, the middle class, they can't afford it. And they feel like, another client that left to Tennessee last month, I have 2 last month to Tennessee, working 3 jobs, right? And she owns her house and she's working 3 jobs. And she's like, I don't feel like I have a life. Sold her house, took that equity, buying cash over there. Now just could work 1 job. And that's, that's a big shift for someone to be able to enjoy life and not just be little work busy bees, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, Rosie. In California, you pretty much work to live. You work so that you can, you live to work. You live to work. Your whole life revolves around your job and commuting. And commuting on the weekend. If you want to take your kids to baseball, you still got to plan on a commute there in a lot of places. But in the rest of the country, and I saw it as soon as I moved back to Florida, after being gone for 37 years, I work to live now. It's not, the pace of life is so much less. The traffic is dramatically less. Is there a rush hour in Orlando? Absolutely. But it's a rush hour. It's not a rush half day, both ways. Yeah. And by the way, guess what? They're expanding the freeways dramatically to account for the growth. I've heard that 900 people a day are moving to Florida right now.
Wow.
And your point was well taken. If you're a business owner, why are you fighting all of those regulations in California? And they're just getting started. They're going to keep coming. You think they're done regulating? Every week there's new regulations. There's new reasons to punish you as a business owner. Most other states, especially to say it, the red states, they welcome you as a business owner. And I'll give you a perfect example. I had a friend who started a very successful little restaurant in Louisiana. He got it started for $5,000. He said, Terry, I'm going to give you all my recipes, let you do that, the same business. I looked into it in California to open that same restaurant. Now, by the way, he did it in 2 months. Permits, build out, everything, 2 months.
That's impressive.
Yes. If I brought that to California, it'd be 1 year to get it started, and it would cost me $100,000. The same restaurant that cost him $5,000 in 2 months cost me $100,000 in a year because of all the permits and all of the bureaucracy you have to go through to start a business. And guess what? I'd have to have enormous prices, significantly higher prices, probably double, which is why the cost of living is so high in California, just to break even. Yeah. So many other states, especially Florida and Tennessee and Texas and Idaho, they want you to bring your businesses here and they want you to thrive, because if you're thriving, you're probably hiring other people and helping them thrive, and everybody wins. Versus California, which is in their minds, we're there to serve the government. Our money is their money, and they want as much of our money as they can take. In Florida, it's not that way at all. You've heard DeSantis. He's very much pro-business, pro-freedom. You decide how to run your life. And that's really, you feel it just in the day-to-day life. It's not just like when you turn on the TV, you feel it. People are much more relaxed. There's a lot more disposable income here. Restaurants are full during the week. You know, people just have more money to spend because there's a lot more freedom, and you don't spend a lot of your time giving all that money to the government.
Well, and it's sad. I mean, it really is sad, the amount that we pay in taxes. And in fact, one of our bordering cities just raised the sales tax almost 2%, 9.75. Overnight, I was like, that's got to be wrong. There's got to be an error. It's. I mean, it's unbelievable. It jumped literally overnight, well over, closer to the 2%. It was like 7 something, and it went to 9.25. I mean, that's ridiculous and makes it really hard. And, you know, for me, being in real estate and coming from new home sales, now obviously I'm in resale, but I've been around the resources and the people that do, you know, to your point, the permitting, the land acquisition and developing it. And it's just, I've always had a dream to build a house. And I just don't, even being in the industry, I don't see that happening here, just because I don't want panicked, right? There comes a point, it's not even about the money. It's the hoops, and it's sad. But well, anyhow, Terry, tell me real quick, the website. So for those listening that will go on Facebook and want to find the different websites that you manage to get the resources based on whether if they already know the state or are just looking for certain climates, certain activities. What are those websites?
Yeah, so the Facebook groups are called, the first one that I started is called Leaving California. Okay. And that's got about 45,000 people in it, maybe 46, 47,000. And then the second group is called Life After California. And that's got closer to 65,000. The reason I started that group, the Leaving California group was doing great, but it kind of became a California bashing group, which there's certainly well-deserved, but my goal was not to have people bash California necessarily, which I still allow, because some people are still trying to convince their spouse that they need to leave, or their family, or whomever. So I started the Life After California, and I don't really have much bashing California there, because it's not about bashing California. It's about what life is like after you left California. And then I've got 2 other groups, Leaving the Left Coast, because people in Oregon and Washington are getting fed up with those liberal policies in those states. And then a 4th group called Leaving Liberal States. And I don't mind sharing this. I'm going to be starting on Leaving New York or Leaving Illinois. There's a, you know, now that I'm here in Florida, there is a mass exodus out of New York and Illinois and New Jersey to places like Florida and Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina. The thing that we hope and pray, of course, is that they don't come down here and vote for what they left, which is a real challenge.
Well, and that's just it. If you voted for certain things here and now they're being implemented, you realize, oh, I don't want that. Maybe before you vote, take a little bit more time to research what we're voting for, so that you don't vote for the very stuff that's happening. And so now you're leaving because of what you voted for, right? Because
Amen.
I know the states we're considering, and it's a very specific item that we're looking for in the states that we're considering. So and I hope that's an amendment we continue to get to keep.
Yeah, and real quick, Rosie, that's a
Yes.
great point too. The groups are very good. I'm not the one who drives the group. It's the members. We have great members. So if you say, hey, I'm thinking about Fort Worth, Texas, you'll get 30 people who respond and say, yes, we
Ah,
moved here from Ventura. We moved here from San Francisco. We love it. Here's why we love it. Is it hot? Yes. By the way, God made air conditioning, by the way. So it's not like you're out living in a tent in these places. But you can ask people questions just about anything. There are thousands, sometimes there's thousands of responses to questions. So it's a great forum for that to become educated on what specific questions you may have, just like you have some specifics. Most people do.
perfect. Well, Terry, it has been a true pleasure having you on here today. And I hope people, we get more members on there, because it's really just, helping each other versus just reading stuff online that could be manipulated. I don't know. But I know they've been, what I read on there is just, it's been great. I know several of my clients that are on those pages, and they feel that it has helped them greatly. Man, it was like a Monday. So thank you so much, Terry. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to continuing to work together.
Same here, Rosie. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise, thank you.